The massive chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal flooring, its curved walls rising toward a dome that showed the swirling colors of the Andromeda Nebula through transparent aluminum. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated areas, each section designed to accommodate their unique physiologies. The Zephyrians floated in their methane-filled pods, while the crystalline Vorthak anchored themselves to specialized mounting points. The air itself was a carefully balanced mixture that wouldn't poison any of the breathing species present. At the center of this grand assembly sat the Galactic Council's ruling body, 12 ancient races who had dominated space for over 10,000 years. Their seats were arranged in a perfect circle, elevated above the other representatives to show their supreme authority. Each chair was a masterpiece of engineering, designed specifically for its occupants' biology and cultural preferences. The Kethmori Chancellor, a being that looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a spider, clicked his mandibles together as he reviewed the holographic display floating before him. His compound eyes, each the size of a human fist, reflected the data streaming across the screen. The information was troubling. Reports from the Outer Rim about a new species that had somehow managed to claim an entire star system without permission. The matter before us today, the Chancellor announced, his voice translated into 47 different languages simultaneously, concerns the unauthorized expansion of a previously unknown species. They call themselves humans and have established what they term the solar system as their territory. A ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. Several representatives made sounds that their translation devices rendered as laughter. The idea that any species could simply claim territory without council approval was absurd. It had been tried before, always with the same result: complete subjugation or extinction. The Veltar representative, a massive creature that resembled a walking tree with too many eyes, swayed slightly as it spoke. Chancellor, surely this is a minor matter. We have protocols for dealing with primitive civilizations that exceed their boundaries. A simple demonstration of our power should bring them into line. More agreement echoed through the chamber. The council had dealt with thousands of upstart species over the millennia. The pattern was always the same: show overwhelming force, demand submission, and integrate the survivors into the galactic hierarchy as a client species. It was efficient, proven, and had never failed. The Chancellor's aide, a slender humanoid with silver skin and no visible mouth, approached carrying a data tablet. Information flowed directly into the Chancellor's mind through their species' natural telepathic connection. What the Chancellor learned made his mandibles click faster, a sign of agitation among his people. There are some unusual aspects to this situation, the Chancellor said, his tone becoming more serious. These humans appear to have developed faster than our models predicted. They went from primitive agriculture to space travel in less than 12,000 years. Most species require at least 50,000 years for similar development. The Nexari representative, a blob of sentient plasma contained within an environmental suit, pulsed with different colors as it communicated. Speed of development is irrelevant. They are still a single-system species. We control over 40,000 systems across 3 galaxies. The mathematical impossibility of resistance is absolute. This statement drew approving sounds from many representatives. The math was indeed simple. The Galactic Council commanded fleets numbering in the millions of ships, each one larger and more powerful than anything a single-system species could possibly construct. They had weapons capable of cracking planets, shields that could withstand the energy output of entire stars, and soldiers drawn from the most aggressive and capable warrior races in known space. But the Chancellor had access to more detailed intelligence reports. The humans had not simply stumbled into space travel through gradual development. Their progression had been explosive, revolutionary, and frankly impossible according to established xenobiological principles. They had gone from their first powered flight to landing on their moon in less than 70 years. They had developed nuclear weapons, computer technology, and faster-than-light travel in rapid succession. There is more, the Chancellor continued. These humans have made contact with 3 Council client species in the past solar year. In each case, they have refused to acknowledge Council authority or pay the required tributes. The chamber fell silent. This was unprecedented. Every species in known space understood that first contact with any civilization automatically meant acknowledging Council supremacy. It wasn't a negotiation, it was simply the way the universe worked. The strong ruled the weak, and the Council was the strongest force that had ever existed. The Dragonese representative stood up, his reptilian form towering over most other beings in the chamber. Scales that could stop plasma bolts covered his massive frame, and his eyes glowed with an internal fire that had intimidated countless enemies over his 3-century lifespan. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of a species that had conquered over 200 worlds before joining the Council. Chancellor, I believe we are overcomplicating this situation. The Dragonese Empire offers to handle this matter personally. Give us 1 month, and these humans will either be properly subjugated or extinct. Their choice. Roars of approval echoed from the Dragonese delegation. They were warriors by nature, bred for conquest and domination. Their military had never suffered a defeat, and they found the idea of a single-system species posing any kind of challenge insulting to their professional pride. But the Council's military intelligence director, a cybernetic being known only as Unit 7739, projected new data into the chamber's main display. The holographic images showed spacecraft unlike anything in the Council's databases. The human ships were angular, aggressive-looking, and covered in what appeared to be weapon emplacements. More disturbing were the energy readings. These ships were putting out power signatures that should have been impossible for their apparent size and construction. Analysis indicates human technology development has followed atypical patterns. Unit 7739 announced in its emotionless mechanical voice. Their materials science, energy generation, and computational systems show innovation beyond expected parameters. Recommend detailed intelligence gathering before military action. The Dragonese representative snorted, a sound like a small volcano erupting. Numbers mean nothing. Show me their fleet sizes, their total military personnel, their industrial capacity. Raw innovation cannot overcome the fundamental mathematics of warfare. Unit 7739 complied, displaying the data the Council had managed to gather. The humans appeared to have fewer than 50 ships larger than a cruiser class. Their total population was barely 8 billion. Their industrial base was limited to a single star system with only modest asteroid mining operations. By every measurable standard, they should have been completely incapable of resisting even the smallest Council enforcement action. See, the Dragonese said, gesturing at the display. This is not even worth our attention. A single Dragonese battle group could eliminate their entire civilization in less than a week. But the Chancellor was studying something else in the data, psychological and cultural profiles that his intelligence services had compiled. What he read there made his mandibles click even faster. These humans were not like other species the Council had encountered. Their history was not one of gradual, peaceful development punctuated by occasional conflicts. It was an unbroken chain of warfare, competition, and survival against incredible odds. Humans had not evolved on a peaceful garden world like most intelligent species. Their planet was a death trap, active tectonics that constantly reshaped the surface, extreme weather patterns that could kill thousands without warning, and an ecosystem where everything was trying to eat everything else. Worse, humans had not simply survived this environment. They had thrived in it, spreading to every continent and climate zone on their world. The cultural analysis was even more disturbing. Humans had never developed a single, unified civilization. Instead, they had created hundreds of different societies that constantly competed, traded, and fought with each other. They had perfected warfare to an art form, developing strategies and technologies for killing each other with a creativity that impressed even the Council's military analysts. Most troubling of all was their response to threats. Other species, when faced with overwhelming odds, would typically surrender or flee. Humans did something different. They got angry. And when humans got angry, they became exponentially more dangerous. The Chancellor made a decision that would echo through galactic history. Instead of immediately authorizing military action, he activated the Council's most advanced intelligence-gathering protocols. If these humans were truly different, he wanted to know exactly how different before committing to any course of action. The Council will dispatch a diplomatic mission to this human species, he announced. We will offer them the standard terms for client species status. Their response will determine our next course of action. Several representatives objected. The hive mind of Zirian, speaking through one of their countless drone bodies, expressed their concern through rapid chittering sounds. Chancellor, this sets a dangerous precedent. If word spreads that the Council negotiates with single-system species, it could encourage other upstart civilizations to challenge our authority. The Veltar representative agreed, their massive form swaying with agitation. The established protocols exist for good reasons. Immediate subjugation prevents the development of resistance movements and ensures rapid integration into the galactic economy. But the Chancellor had made his choice. The decision is final. Ambassador Kelifan will lead the diplomatic mission. He has extensive experience dealing with primitive species and should be able to resolve this matter quickly. Ambassador Kelifan was a perfect choice for the mission. A member of the Sindari species, he stood nearly 3 meters tall, with 4 arms, natural armor plating, and the ability to project holographic displays directly from his body. The Sindari had been council members for over 8,000 years and had successfully negotiated the surrender of more than 300 species during their service. What made Kelifan particularly effective was his understanding of primitive psychology. Younger species were usually overwhelmed by displays of superior technology and obvious physical superiority. A few demonstrations of council capabilities, combined with generous offers of protection and advancement, typically convinced even the most stubborn species to accept client status. The ambassador spent the next several days reviewing everything the council knew about humans. He studied their history, their cultures, their technologies, and their recent interactions with council client species. What he learned convinced him that this assignment would be routine. The humans showed all the typical signs of a primitive species experiencing rapid development: internal conflicts, resource competition, and the arrogance that came from being the only intelligent species in their local area. The diplomatic mission would consist of 3 ships: a massive dreadnought to demonstrate council power, a science vessel to study human technology, and his own diplomatic cruiser equipped with the most advanced translation and communication systems available. The fleet would enter the human solar system, make contact with their government, and present the standard offer of client species status. It should have been simple. The Council had performed this same mission thousands of times with thousands of different species. The script was well established, the outcomes predictable, and the benefits to both sides obvious. Client species received protection, technology transfers, and access to galactic markets. The Council gained new resources, strategic locations, and additional populations to draw upon for labor and military service. As the diplomatic fleet prepared to depart, Unit 7739 submitted one final intelligence report. Deep space monitoring stations had detected unusual energy signatures from the direction of the human solar system. The readings suggested some kind of massive construction project, but the distances involved made detailed analysis impossible. The cybernetic intelligence recommended delaying the mission until better information could be gathered. Ambassador Kelifan dismissed the report. Construction projects were typical for developing species. The humans were probably building orbital habitats or expanded mining operations. Such activities were actually encouraging signs. They showed a species ready to think beyond their home world and consider larger possibilities. The 3 ships departed from the Council's primary military base in the Centauri sector, their destination a small yellow star that the humans called Sol. The journey would take 12 days at maximum cruiser speed, giving the ambassador time to finalize his negotiating strategy and prepare the various demonstrations that would convince the humans to accept Council authority. As the fleet moved through hyperspace toward its destination, Ambassador Kelifan reviewed the standard client species agreement one more time. The terms were generous by Council standards. Humans would maintain local autonomy over their home system while acknowledging overall Council authority. They would pay modest tributes in the form of raw materials and volunteer military service. In exchange, they would receive protection from hostile species, access to advanced technologies, and eventual consideration for full Council membership. Most species were eager to accept such terms. The benefits far outweighed the costs, and the alternative, continued isolation in a hostile universe, was obviously inferior. The ambassador expected the human leaders to be grateful for the opportunity to join galactic civilization. He had no way of knowing that the energy signatures unit, 7739, had detected were not construction projects. They were weapons tests. And the humans who had developed those weapons were not grateful primitives ready to accept protection from their betters. They were apex predators who had just realized they were no longer alone in the universe. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shatter the Council's understanding of warfare, challenge their assumptions about primitive species, and introduce them to a concept they had never truly experienced in 10,000 years of galactic dominance. They were about to learn what it meant to be prey. Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the Yuyan Defiance, staring at the tactical display that showed 3 massive contacts approaching from the outer system. The ships were unlike anything in the human database, sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to bend light around their edges. The largest one was nearly 5 kilometers long, larger than anything humanity had ever built. "Distance to contacts?" she asked, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what they were facing. "For 100 million kilometers, and closing, Admiral," reported Lieutenant Commander Torres from his position at the sensor station. "They're decelerating from faster-than-light speeds, but their approach vector suggests they're heading directly for Earth." The bridge of the Defiance was a study in controlled tension. Every officer and crew member understood the historical significance of this moment. First contact with an alien civilization, something humanity had dreamed about and prepared for since they first looked up at the stars. But the circumstances were far from the peaceful encounter most had imagined. 3 months earlier, human colonies on the edges of the solar system had encountered ships belonging to species that claimed to serve something called the Galactic Council. Each encounter had followed the same pattern: demands for immediate surrender, payment of tribute, and acknowledgement of Council authority. Each time, the human response had been the same polite but firm refusal. The aliens had seemed genuinely shocked by humanity's response. According to their translators, no species had ever refused Council authority before. They had departed peacefully, but not before making it clear that the Council would not tolerate continued human independence. Admiral Chun had spent her entire career preparing for space warfare, but she had always assumed humanity's enemies would be other humans. The discovery that the galaxy was full of hostile alien civilizations had required a complete rethinking of human military doctrine. Fortunately, humanity's natural paranoia and competitive instincts had led them to develop weapons and tactics that were proving surprisingly relevant to the current situation. "Admiral, we're receiving a communication from the lead ship," reported Communications Officer Nakamura. "They're using the same translation protocols as the previous contacts." "Put it through." The main screen flickered and resolved into the image of a tall, four-armed alien wearing what appeared to be ceremonial armor. When it spoke, the translation system rendered its words in perfect English, though there was a slight delay as the computers processed the alien language. "Greetings, humans of the solar system. I am Ambassador Kelethvan of the Sindari, speaking for the Galactic Council. We have come to offer your species the opportunity to join galactic civilization as a client species under Council protection and authority." Admiral Chun activated the ship's communication system. "Ambassador Kelethvan, I am Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Navy. While we appreciate your offer, humanity has already decided to maintain its independence. We have no interest in becoming a client species to any galactic authority." The alien's expression changed slightly, though the translation of facial expressions was imperfect. "Admiral Chun, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. Client species status is not optional. Every intelligent species in the galaxy serves the Council in this capacity. It is simply the natural order of things." "Then, I'm afraid you're about to discover that humans don't believe much in natural orders," Chun replied. "We've spent our entire history overthrowing authority figures who claim divine right to rule over us. We're not about to start accepting them now." There was a long pause before the ambassador responded. "Admiral, I do not think you understand the situation. The Galactic Council commands fleets numbering in the millions of ships. We have weapons that can destroy planets, and the military might of 47 different species at our disposal. Resistance is not merely futile, it is impossible. Chen smiled, though she knew the alien probably couldn't interpret the expression correctly. Ambassador, let me share something about human history with you. We have a saying, the impossible just takes a little longer. Every major advancement in our civilization has been accomplished by people who were told it couldn't be done. The tactical display showed the alien ships continuing their approach toward Earth. They were moving slowly, probably to demonstrate that they didn't consider the human fleet a threat. That was their first mistake. Admiral, whispered her tactical officer, Commander Rodriguez. We have targeting solutions on all 3 ships. The new plasma lance arrays are charged and ready. Chen nodded, but kept her attention on the alien ambassador. Ambassador Kelifan, I'm going to give you one chance to reverse course and leave our system. If you continue toward Earth, we will consider it an act of aggression and respond accordingly. The alien's forearms moved in what might have been the equivalent of a dismissive gesture. Admiral, your threats are meaningless. Our ships are protected by quantum barrier shields that can withstand the energy output of a star. Your primitive weapons cannot possibly. Torres, give our guest a demonstration of just how primitive our weapons are, Chen interrupted. Target the science vessel. Minimal power, just enough to get their attention. Aye, Admiral. The Defiance shuddered slightly as its main plasma lance array fired. The beam of superheated particles crossed the distance between ships in less than a second, striking the alien science vessel's shields. The result was immediately visible on the tactical display. The target's energy signatures flickered and fluctuated as their defensive systems struggled to absorb the impact. The expression on Ambassador Kelifan's face changed dramatically. Whatever emotions the Sindari were capable of, he was clearly experiencing several of them at once. That was a warning shot, Ambassador, Chen said calmly. The next one won't be. The alien's voice, when it came, carried a tone of disbelief. How is this possible? Our intelligence reports indicated that your species had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. Your technology should not be capable of affecting Council shields. Your intelligence reports didn't account for something important about humans, Chen replied. We don't develop technology gradually like other species apparently do. We make revolutionary breakthroughs. And we've had some very interesting breakthroughs recently. This was an understatement. Humanity's first encounters with alien technology had triggered an explosion of reverse engineering and innovation that had compressed centuries of normal development into mere months. Human scientists had taken one look at faster-than-light drives, energy shields, and plasma weapons, then immediately began figuring out ways to build them better, stronger, and more efficiently. The results had been spectacular. Human ships were now equipped with weapons systems that combined alien principles with human engineering ingenuity. The plasma lance arrays used magnetic containment fields to focus particle beams to densities that alien scientists had considered theoretically impossible. The shield systems merged quantum barrier technology with human adaptive algorithms that could analyze and counter almost any form of attack in real time. But technology was only part of the equation. The bigger advantage was tactical doctrine. Human military strategy had been forged in thousands of years of warfare against opponents who were often technologically superior. Humans had learned to fight smarter, faster, and more aggressively than anyone expected. Admiral Chen, the ambassador said, his voice taking on a more diplomatic tone. Perhaps we can discuss this situation more calmly. The Council is prepared to offer very generous terms for client species status. You would maintain local autonomy and receive significant technological assistance. Ambassador, let me explain something about human psychology, Chen responded. The moment you showed up here making demands and threatening us with superior firepower, you made this personal. And humans don't respond well to bullies. On the tactical display, the alien ships had changed formation. The massive dreadnought was moving into an attack position while the other 2 vessels fell back. Energy readings indicated they were charging weapons systems that could probably destroy anything in the human fleet with a single shot. Chen activated the fleet communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Execute Operation Righteous Fury. Show our guests what happens when someone threatens Earth. The response was immediate. 67 human ships that had been hidden in the asteroid belt suddenly activated their engines and began accelerating toward the alien formation. They had been waiting in silent running mode, their heat signatures masked by the background radiation of the asteroids. But that wasn't the surprise that made Ambassador Keliphan's face turn pale. The real shock was what emerged from the dark side of Earth's moon, a massive space station that human engineers had been secretly constructing for the past 6 months. The station was roughly spherical, bristling with weapons arrays, and larger than the alien dreadnought. "Allow me to introduce you to Olympus Station," Chen said with obvious satisfaction. "Our engineers have been very busy since we learned about the Galactic Council. They've built something special just for occasions like this." The alien dreadnought opened fire, releasing a beam of energy that should have been capable of vaporizing a small planet. The blast struck Olympus Station's shields and simply disappeared, absorbed by defensive systems that had been specifically designed to counter alien weapon technology. The station's response was devastating. Hundreds of plasma lance arrays fired simultaneously, creating a coordinated barrage that overwhelmed the alien ship's shields in seconds. The dreadnought's hull armor, designed to withstand anything the Council had ever encountered, began to glow and buckle under the sustained assault. "Impossible," Ambassador Keliphan shouted. "No single system species has ever built weapons of this magnitude." "Ambassador," Chen replied, "you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means." The alien dreadnought was now retreating, its weapons systems offline, and its hull showing massive damage. The other 2 ships had already begun charging their faster-than-light drives, preparing to flee the system. But Admiral Chen wasn't finished with her demonstration. "Torres, show them the Ragnarok array." Hidden in the outer system, a network of human-built satellites suddenly activated. Each satellite was equipped with a miniaturized version of the plasma lance technology, but linked through quantum communication to coordinate their fire. 64 satellites fired simultaneously at a single target, a small asteroid that the aliens had probably assumed was natural. The asteroid vanished in a flash of superheated plasma. The energy release was visible across half the solar system, a clear demonstration that humanity now possessed weapons capable of destroying entire planets. "As you can see," Chen said conversationally, "we've been preparing for this conversation for some time. Now, I believe you mentioned something about millions of Council ships? That's interesting, because we've been doing some calculations of our own." The tactical display shifted to show a star map of the local galactic region. Red dots appeared at strategic locations, jump points, trade routes, and systems where the Council maintained major installations. "You see, Ambassador, while you were assuming we were primitive and helpless, we were studying your civilization. We know where your ships come from, where they're built, and how they move through space. We've identified the critical infrastructure that keeps your empire functioning." Chen's voice took on a harder edge. "We've also been building weapons platforms at every major jump point within 50 light-years of Earth. Any Council fleet that wants to attack us will have to come through those positions first. And I guarantee you won't like what we've prepared for them." The alien ambassador was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a tone of respect that hadn't been there before. "Admiral Chen, perhaps we have indeed underestimated your species. The Council would be interested in discussing alternative arrangements that might be more mutually beneficial." "Now you're talking sense," Chen replied. "But understand this, Ambassador. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy, but we won't be ruled by it either. If the Council wants to coexist with us, they're going to have to accept that we're equals, not subjects." The alien ships completed their retreat preparations. Before departing, Ambassador Keliphan delivered one final message. "Admiral Chen, what you have accomplished here today will send shock waves through the Council. There will be those who demand immediate military action against your species. Others will argue for negotiation. But all will remember that for the first time in 10,000 years, someone said no to the Council and made it stick. Then, make sure you tell them something else," Chen said. "Tell them that if they want a war with humanity, they'll get one. And humans have never lost a war we were determined to win." The alien ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving the human fleet alone in their solar system. But Everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Galactic Council would not simply accept this defeat and move on. They would be back, probably in greater numbers and with better preparation. Admiral Chen looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. Each one showed the same mixture of pride, determination, and awareness of what they had just committed themselves to. Humanity had just declared independence from the most powerful force in the galaxy. The war was about to begin. Chancellor Kethmori's compound eyes reflected the holographic displays that filled his private chamber, each one showing devastating footage from the human encounter. The diplomatic mission that should have been a routine client-species integration had turned into the Council's first military defeat in over 3,000 years. The Chancellor's mandibles clicked rapidly as he reviewed the technical analysis. Unit 7739's mechanical voice provided commentary on each clip, its emotionless tone making the information even more disturbing. Human weapons technology demonstrates advancement beyond theoretical parameters, the cybernetic intelligence reported. Energy output calculations indicate power densities exceeding known physical limitations. Recommend immediate revision of threat assessment protocols. The footage showed the human space station's assault on the Dragoni Dreadnought, a ship that had never been damaged in 2 centuries of service. The vessel's quantum barrier shields, rated to withstand the energy output of a small star, had collapsed under the coordinated fire from weapons that shouldn't have been able to affect them at all. How is this possible? The Chancellor demanded. Our intelligence indicated these humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel within the past solar year. No species develops weapons technology this advanced without centuries of research and development. Unit 7739 projected additional data into the display. Analysis suggests human development follows non-standard patterns. Evidence indicates rapid reverse engineering of acquired Council technology combined with innovative applications of indigenous scientific principles. The Chancellor studied the tactical analysis of the human fleet movements during the encounter. What he saw there was perhaps even more disturbing than their advanced weapons. The humans had demonstrated strategic thinking that was both sophisticated and utterly alien to Council military doctrine. Every other species the Council had encountered followed predictable patterns in space combat. They built the largest ships possible, mounted the most powerful weapons available, and relied on overwhelming firepower to achieve victory. It was a doctrine that had worked successfully for millennia against every opponent they had faced. The humans had done something completely different. Instead of building massive dreadnoughts to match Council firepower, they had constructed swarms of smaller, more maneuverable vessels. Instead of engaging in direct confrontation, they had used stealth, deception, and coordinated attacks from multiple directions. Most disturbing of all, they had somehow managed to predict Council tactics and prepare specific counters to them. The satellite weapon network troubles me most, the Chancellor admitted. They managed to construct and deploy 64 weapon platforms without our intelligence services detecting them. This suggests capabilities in stealth technology and rapid construction that we have not accounted for. The door to his chamber chimed, and Chancellor admitted his military advisors. General Vextai of the Dragoni entered first, his reptilian features showing signs of barely controlled rage. Behind him came Admiral Zoran of the Nexari, her plasma form contained within an environmental suit that pulsed with angry colors. Chancellor, General Vextai growled, his voice carrying the authority of a species that had conquered hundreds of worlds. This insult cannot be allowed to stand. The Dragoni military demands immediate authorization for a full-scale assault on the human system. Admiral Zoran's plasma form shifted through shades of red and orange, colors that indicated aggressive intent in her species. The Nexari fleet agrees. We have 7 battle groups in nearby sectors that can be redirected to human space within 1 standard month. These primitives need to learn the consequences of defying Council authority. The Chancellor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully as he considered their words. The traditional Council response to resistance was exactly what his military leaders were recommending: overwhelming force applied quickly and decisively. It had never failed before. But something about the human encounter suggested that traditional responses might not work this time. Unit 7739, project our current military assets in the local sector. The holographic display shifted to show a three-dimensional map of nearby space. Glowing icons represented Council fleet positions, with different colors indicating the various species that contributed ships to the unified military command. The numbers were impressive, over 2 million active warships within 100 light-years of human space. Recommend caution. Unit 7739 announced, its mechanical voice cutting through the aggressive posturing of the organic commanders. Human tactical capabilities suggest conventional fleet engagement may result in unacceptable losses. General Vextai snorted, a sound like an angry volcano. Losses? Unit 7739. We outnumber these humans by factors of thousands to one. Even if their individual ships are more capable than expected, simple mathematics makes victory inevitable. Mathematics do not account for tactical innovation, the cybernetic intelligence replied. Human combat doctrine demonstrates principles not present in Council strategic databases. Recommend comprehensive intelligence gathering before committing major fleet assets. Admiral Zoran pulsed with deeper shades of red. Chancellor, we cannot allow fear of a single system species to paralyze Council decision-making. If we hesitate now, other client species may begin to question Council authority. The political consequences of inaction outweigh any military risks. The Chancellor understood their concerns. The Council's authority rested on the absolute certainty that resistance was futile. If word spread that humans had successfully defied Council demands, it could inspire rebellions across dozens of systems. The carefully maintained balance of galactic power could collapse within a generation. But the footage from the human encounter kept playing in his mind. The casual efficiency with which they had destroyed the asteroid using their satellite network. The precise coordination of their fleet movements. Most troubling of all, the complete lack of fear or intimidation in Admiral Chen's voice when she had spoken of war with the Council. I am ordering a comprehensive intelligence operation, the Chancellor decided. We need to understand exactly what we are dealing with before we commit to military action. The military commanders began to object, but the Chancellor raised one of his forearms for silence. This decision is final. General Vextai, you will prepare contingency plans for a full assault, but no ships are to enter human space without my direct authorization. Admiral Zoran, your fleets will establish a blockade around human territory to prevent expansion while we gather intelligence. As his advisors departed, clearly unhappy with his cautious approach, the Chancellor activated a private communication channel. The holographic image that appeared was that of Shadow Prime, the leader of the Council's most elite intelligence organization. Shadow Prime was a member of a species that had evolved on a world with no light. Blind, telepathic beings who excelled at gathering information through means other species couldn't even comprehend. His appearance was unsettling even by Council standards. Tall, unnaturally thin, with pale skin and empty eye sockets where normal eyes should be. Chancellor, Shadow Prime spoke directly into his mind, bypassing the need for verbal communication entirely. I assume you wish to know more about these humans. Everything, the Chancellor replied through the telepathic link. Their technology, their culture, their psychology, their capabilities. I want to understand how a single system species managed to develop weapons that can threaten Council ships. Images flowed directly into the Chancellor's consciousness. Shadow Prime's initial assessment of human civilization based on long-range surveillance and captured communications. What the Chancellor learned disturbed him more than the military defeat had. Humans were not like other species. Most intelligent life developed on worlds with stable climates and predictable environments. They evolved gradually, peacefully, with plenty of time to develop complex civilizations before facing serious external threats. Humans had evolved on what could only be described as a death world. Their planet was geologically active, with massive earthquakes and volcanic eruptions reshaping the surface regularly. The climate was unstable, with ice ages that periodically killed most life forms. The ecosystem was a constant war of predator against prey, with every species fighting for survival against all others. Most species would have gone extinct on such a world. Humans had not only survived, they had thrived. They had spread to every environment on their planet, from frozen polar regions to scorching deserts to the depths of their oceans. They had learned to not merely adapt to hostile conditions, but to actively change their environment to suit their needs. Their entire evolutionary history is one of constant warfare. Shadow Prime's voice echoed in the Chancellor's mind. Not just against other species, but against their own environment, against natural disasters, and, most significantly, against each other. More images flowed through the telepathic link. Human history from the development of agriculture through their recent achievement of spaceflight. The Chancellor saw a species that had never known true peace, that had developed increasingly sophisticated ways of killing each other, and that had somehow managed to turn warfare into an art form. They have been preparing for galactic conflict their entire existence without knowing it, Shadow Prime continued. Every advance in their technology, every development in their military doctrine, every aspect of their culture has been shaped by the need to fight and win against superior opponents. The Chancellor's mandibles clicked faster as he absorbed this information. The Council had assumed humans were typical of single-system species, primitive, peaceful, and easily intimidated by superior force. Instead, they were dealing with a civilization that had been bred for war by one of the harshest planets in the galaxy. There is more, Shadow Prime added. Their response to the diplomatic mission was not driven by arrogance or ignorance. It was a calculated decision made by leaders who understand exactly what they are facing. New images appeared in the Chancellor's mind. Human military installations throughout their solar system, construction projects that dwarfed anything the Council had seen from a single-system species, and, most disturbing of all, evidence of expansion beyond their home system. They have already begun colonization efforts in nearby systems, Shadow Prime revealed. Our intelligence suggests they are building fortified positions at strategic locations along likely Council approach routes. They are not merely defending their home system. They are preparing for an offensive campaign. The Chancellor felt something he had not experienced in his 3 centuries of life: genuine fear. The Council had built their empire on the assumption that they would always be the aggressor, always have the initiative, always face opponents who were reacting to Council moves rather than anticipating them. The humans were not reacting. They were planning. And, if Shadow Prime's intelligence was accurate, they were planning for a war that could threaten the very existence of Council civilization. What are your recommendations? The Chancellor asked. Immediate negotiation, Shadow Prime replied without hesitation. These humans have demonstrated capabilities that suggest they could inflict severe damage on Council forces even if they ultimately lose. The cost of victory could be greater than the benefit of conquest. The military commanders would never accept such a recommendation. Then, the military commanders will need to learn a lesson that the Council has forgotten over 10 millennia of dominance, Shadow Prime responded. Sometimes, the strongest choice is to walk away from a fight. The Chancellor terminated the communication and returned to studying the footage from the human encounter. Admiral Chen's words echoed in his memory. Humans have never lost a war we were determined to win. For the first time in Council history, they were facing an opponent that might actually mean those words. The question was whether the Council would be wise enough to avoid finding out if the humans were right.